Imagine trying to write the future laws of global economics.
Right, while simultaneously fighting off North Korean hackers.
Exactly. In your own code base, no less. And then, dealing with an arsonist throwing a literal Molotov cocktail at your front gate.
Yeah, it's a stunning juxtaposition. I mean, for OpenAI, that wasn't a movie plot. That was literally just the second week of April.
Welcome to the deep dive. We're looking at an absolutely monumental stretch of days for you today, specifically the week of April 5th to April 11th, 2026.
Right, and this is really the moment OpenAI stopped acting like just a, traditional software vendor.
Yeah, they aggressively pivoted. Our mission today is to synthesize how their rapid product evolution is colliding headfirst with, well, intense market competition and these existential security challenges. So, okay, let's unpack this.
I think the best place to start is with the invisible engine powering this entire shift.
The April 9th update.
Exactly. The OpenAI Help Center published a global update about a new model called GPT-5.3 Instant Mini.
And the headline here isn't just that they released a new fallback model, right?
No, not at all. What happened is they silently replaced their existing fallback infrastructure.
Seamlessly.
Seamlessly. They are routing users to this highly optimized, smaller parameter variant whenever they hit rate limits on the primary model.
Which, I mean, the technical achievement there is wild when you think about session state.
Oh, for sure.
Historically, if you were a high-volume user and you hit a compute wall, the degradation was jarring. The AI would suddenly just lose its contextual awareness.
It was incredibly obvious you're being throttled.
Right, but by silently swapping in GPT 5.3 Instant Mini, they are masking that compute throttling entirely.
And that masking is really the why it matters metric for enterprise users. It ensures a graceful degradation of service.
Without breaking the user experience, it's essentially, it's like having a high-performance reserve fuel tank in a sports car.
That's a good way to put it.
You're driving at 150 miles an hour, the main tank runs dry, and the reserve kicks in.
And you don't even feel the engine sputter.
Exactly. You just keep driving. You don't even know it's there, but it keeps the illusion of infinite capacity alive.
Well, and that illusion is critical right now because the reality is compute is astronomically expensive.
Very expensive.
So that reserve tank is necessary because OpenAI is fundamentally changing how they charge power users.
Yeah, on that same day, April 9th, TechCrunch and the OpenAI Help Center confirmed a massive global shift in the developer platform.
The introduction of the new $100 per month Pro 5X tier.
Right, alongside new Codex limits. They introduced a promotional 10 times Codex multiplier. But the real story is the billing paradigm itself.
Yes. They are moving away from counting raw messages or tokens.
Which is huge.
It is. They're shifting to a measurement of reasoning time.
And, for the future of commercial AI development, this is a vital distinction to understand.
Because not all prompts are computationally equal anymore.
Right. Asking a model to generate a simple marketing email takes, negligible infrastructure.
Yeah, almost nothing. But asking an AI to refactor an entire legacy codebase or run a complex agentic loop that needs deep, multi-step logical deduction.
That monopolizes a ton of GPU inference capacity for a long time.
Exactly. So by billing against reasoning time, they establish a new pricing floor.
They are aligning their revenue directly with actual hardware and electricity expenditures.
Right. If you build an app requiring heavy logic, you pay proportionately for the compute burden you put on the servers.
Which shifts the whole incentive structure for software engineers.
Yeah.
You aren't just optimizing prompts to use fewer words now.
No, you have to optimize your workflow to require fewer logical jumps.
Speaking of workflows, enterprise AI is officially moving out of the experimental chat window. Between April 6th and 9th, OpenAI pushed updates to its agents SDK.
Specifically, version 0.13.6 for Python and version 0.8.3 for JavaScript and TypeScript.
And the headline feature there is the addition of native sandbox execution.
Right. They gave developers a lightweight framework where these multi-agent workflows can securely interact with files and run code.
In isolated, controlled environments, which is, why it matters, is the shift from stateless to stateful systems.
Because a chat interface is mostly stateless. You ask a question, it answers, you move on.
But these agents can run long workflows now. They can spit up a sandbox, test some code, read the error log, rewrite the code, and test it again.
All autonomously, which perfectly sets the stage for the updates we saw roll out globally for ChatGPT itself between April 8th and 10th.
Ah, yeah. The OpenAI Academy and Help Center detailed two massive integrations, projects, and the Microsoft Outlook shared mailboxes integration.
Projects introduces isolated, stateful workspaces. It gives the AI persistent memory boundaries so context doesn't bleed.
But the Outlook integration, I mean, that is what really changes the corporate dynamic.
ChatGPT basically gained autonomous read and write access to shared Outlook mailboxes and calendars.
Think about that for a second. Tying an AI into a shared inbox means it can organize emails, draft replies, and manage scheduling for a whole team.
Yeah, but the underlying mechanics of making that work securely, it's incredibly complex.
Oh, absolutely. It
Yeah.
requires deep integration with Microsoft Entra, which is basically modern Active Directory.
Right. And strict role-based access control, or RBAC.
And if you weave an AI into the core administrative nervous system of a company like that, trying to pull it out later is, well, it's like trying to remove flour from a baked cake.
It drastically escalates platform stickiness. Once it's routing emails and managing calendars, removing it is wildly disruptive.
And woven into all that stickiness is a very aggressive monetization engine.
Right. On April 10th in the US, Digiday and PPC Land reported the launch of a self-serve ads manager for ChatGPT.
What happened is they dropped the minimum entry threshold for advertisers. It went from $250,000 down to just $50,000.
The scale of this ambition is what really matters here. The initial advertising pilot was already crossing $100 million in annualized revenue.
Wow.
Yeah, so launching a self-serve tool is the foundational infrastructure they need to scale that ad business toward their goal.
Which is, what, a projected $100 billion by 2030?
Exactly.
So if you look at the entire board right now, they aren't just selling software anymore.
No. They provide the workspace with projects, execute logic with the agent's SDK, govern communications through Outlook.
And now they own the advertising space where user intent is monetized. They're creating an inescapable walled garden.
But, there is a ceiling to that walled garden, and it isn't made of software.
Right. It's made of copper wire, cooling systems, and power grids.
Running billions of autonomous agents requires just an astronomical amount of electricity.
And that physical reality hit a wall on April 9th. Reuters reported that the UK Stargate data center project was officially paused.
Right. OpenAI halted plans for this UK facility, which was supposed to be a crucial node in a £150 billion global investment initiative.
And the reason that matters is it exposes the friction between infinite digital scaling and finite physical resources.
The project was paused due to the UK's uncertain regulatory environment and, well, incredibly high energy costs.
Yeah, I mean, you can write the most efficient agents SDK in the world, but if you can't plug in the servers affordably, the progress just stops.
It really underscores how physical realities can actively throttle global AI infrastructure buildouts.
Which leads to a fascinating pivot. Because if the physical infra is hitting regulatory friction abroad, the strategy seems to be writing the socioeconomic rules yourself back home.
Yeah, on April 6th, OpenAI Global Affairs published a 13-page macroeconomic blueprint.
Titled Industrial Policy for the Intelligence Age.
For a private technology firm to release a document like this is staggering.
It really is.
Yeah.
What happened is they proposed radical macroeconomic reforms on a global and U.S. scale.
They advocated for a public wealth fund, the implementation of robot taxes on automated labor.
And they even suggested subsidizing 32-hour workweek pilots. To foster research into these ideas, they offered $100,000 grants and $1 million in API credits. Now, obviously, whether you think a public wealth fund or a robot tax is a brilliant safeguard or just a terrible innovation killer, we're remaining entirely neutral on that.
Of course.
The fascinating part is simply that a private tech company is the one drafting this blueprint in the first place.
The strategic motivation is clear. They are actively attempting to architect the post-AGI economic redistribution.
Right. By leading the conversation on labor displacement, they frame themselves as a socially responsible architect.
They want to capture the regulatory narrative before lawmakers dictate the terms to them.
And we saw that exact same proactive playbook applied to content safety. On April 8th, OpenAI released a child safety blueprint in collaboration with the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children.
They outlined a layered defense framework against AI-generated child sexual abuse material.
And this aims to establish voluntary, industry-wide standards, right?
Yeah. Why it matters is that OpenAI is trying to preempt federal crackdowns. They're showing they already have a safety-by-design architecture in place.
Which demonstrates proactive compliance when legal scrutiny is really intensifying.
And that scrutiny is very real. On April 9th, Reuters reported a tangible legal challenge.
Right. Florida's Attorney General launched an investigation alleging that ChatGPT was used to plan a 2025 school shooting.
And again, applying our impartiality rule, we're just reporting the facts of the investigation neutrally.
Exactly. Regardless of how that specific case unfolds, the juxtaposition of the proactive child safety blueprint and the reactive Attorney General investigation perfectly captures the tension right now.
The legal scrutiny over generative AI's physical world harms is escalating rapidly.
So to help stay ahead of those harms, they launched the OpenAI Safety Fellowship on April 6th.
The headline here is a pilot program paying independent researchers a $3,850 weekly stipend.
That's a good chunk of change.
It is. It's to study AI alignment, robustness, and misuse prevention.
But the fascinating detail here is the security boundary. The fellows are strictly barred from accessing OpenAI's internal training systems.
Which is a brilliant structural move. They outsource the most difficult alignment research to elite external talent.
Right, while strictly protecting their proprietary model weights and IP.
They benefit from top-tier academic minds without exposing trade secrets.
Now, I find this next part incredible. We just walked through these grand economic policies, strict safety blueprints, and elite fellowships.
Right.
But at the exact same time all this high-minded governance was happening, the actual foundation was cracking.
Yeah, they were scrambling to fix a very basic, frankly embarrassing security flaw.
The Axios supply chain compromise. On April 10th and 11th, Reuters and Security Week reported that a North Korean supply chain attack compromised an incredibly common open-source developer library called Axios.
What happened is OpenAI used Axios in an automated GitHub workflow for code signing their macOS applications.
And because of this compromise, a malicious payload was executed inside their secure boundary.
To understand how a sophisticated AI lab falls victim to this, you have to look at the mechanics of automated software pipelines.
Right.
The fundamental failure was their reliance on a floating dependency tag.
Let's break that down for the listeners. Imagine giving a contractor a permanent building pass that just says, "Let the plumber in," without ever checking the date, the specific company, or their ID.
A floating tag in software development tells the pipeline to just grab the latest version of a library whenever it compiles the code.
It didn't verify a specific immutable cryptographic hash of the file.
So when the North Korean hackers poisoned the newest version of the Axios library, OpenAI's system simply followed instructions.
It automatically downloaded and executed the poisoned version because it was tagged as the latest.
And the fallout from this was severe. OpenAI concluded that user data wasn't accessed, but
because the compromised workflow had access to their Apple Developer ID certificates, they had to treat the cryptographic keys themselves as compromised,
they were forced to rotate their keys.
which is a massive headache. Why this matters for the end user is that all legacy macOS apps, like the ChatGPT Desktop app, Codex, Atlas, they face a hard deprecation.
Users are mandated to update their applications by May 8th, 2026, or the software will simply stop working.
It really exposes severe vulnerabilities in automated CI/CD pipelines and threatens trust.
And as if that wasn't enough digital chaos, developers experienced a separate incident on the OpenAI developer community forums.
Oh yeah, a missing API scope temporarily erased all developer apps from the ChatGPT dashboard.
Total loss of visibility.
But digital threats are one thing. The vulnerability extended into the physical world as well, which is terrifying.
Yeah, on April 10th, The Guardian reported a kinetic attack in the U.S.
A 20-year-old suspect threw a Molotov cocktail at the San Francisco residence of CEO Sam Altman.
Causing a fire on the exterior gate before threatening OpenAI's headquarters.
And the suspect was carrying a manifesto, right? Titled, "Your Last Warning."
Yes, advocating for the killing of AI executives to prevent human extinction.
This kinetic attack highlights the extreme sociopolitical radicalization surrounding superintelligence right now.
It forces a massive elevation of executive security profiles across the industry. The threat vector has moved from cyber espionage to asymmetric physical violence.
So, state-sponsored hackers attacking the software, radicalized individuals attacking the homes of executives, data centers halted by energy costs.
There's a lot of friction.
When you stack all of that up, I would imagine their enterprise adoption must be taking a massive hit. Did the numbers reflect that chaos?
Well, the timing of the data releases paints a very revealing picture. On April 8th, OpenAI's chief revenue officer announced that enterprise revenue had hit over 40% of their pipeline.
Touting 3 million weekly Codex users.
Right. But just 3 days later, on April 11th, independent financial data from the RAMP AI Index was released.
And this offers a look at the broader U.S. market based on actual invoice data. Right?
Exactly. What happened when RAMP looked at the actual spending is that it showed OpenAI's enterprise market share had actually flatlined at 35.2%. Meanwhile, their chief rival, Anthropic, surged, capturing 30.6% of the market.
That is a rapidly converging duopoly. I mean, Anthropic is right on their heels.
It proves that enterprise chief information officers are actively rejecting vendor lock-in.
CIOs are diversifying their AI supply chains.
Right, to hedge against pricing changes, security flaws like the Axios hack, and service degradation. It exposes real vulnerabilities in OpenAI's B2B dominance.
Which entirely explains the absolute rush to build defensive moats. If your market share is flatlining, you have to prove you are indispensable.
You have to weave yourself into the Outlook inboxes and launch stateful sandboxed agents.
And to power those agents, you need the smartest models. To get the smartest models, you need authentic human data.
Which brings us to the final strategic moves of the week. On April 5th and April 8th, OpenAI secured two massive partnerships and acquisitions.
First, they signed a deal for real-time data API access with Reddit.
Second, they outright acquired a Silicon Valley media network called TBPN, the Technology Business Programming Network.
Okay, let's look at the Reddit partnership first. As the internet increasingly fills up with synthetic, AI-generated text, labs face an existential threat.
Right, model collapse.
Exactly.
Yeah.
If you train a future AI model on the garbage output of an older AI model, the new system's capabilities rapidly degrade. The outputs become repetitive and nonsensical.
So Reddit secures a massive, continuous influx of organic, authentic human conversational data to stave off that collapse.
Plus, the deal makes OpenAI an advertising partner on Reddit.
Which aligns perfectly with their newly launched ads manager strategy.
Now, the acquisition of TPPN serves a different, but equally defensive purpose.
During a period of intense regulatory pressure, cyber attacks, and shifting public opinion regarding safety, acquiring a media channel provides OpenAI with an unfiltered broadcast mechanism.
Right. Why rely on adversarial tech journalists to report on your child safety blueprint or your macroeconomic policies when you can just own the network broadcasting the analysis?
It allows them to bypass traditional media scrutiny and shape the narrative directly for the tech elite and policymakers.
Which basically brings us full circle. If we trace the journey of this single week, we see a company desperately trying to solidify its foundation while reaching for absolute ubiquity.
We started with invisible model fallbacks routing around compute limits and the rollout of $100 pro-tier billing developers by reasoning time.
We saw their push to own the enterprise workflow through sandboxed agents and deep Microsoft Outlook integrations. And, of course, their play for the $100 billion ad market.
But then we hit the immense friction. Paused data centers in the UK due to energy costs. The bold, almost surreal attempt to write their own macroeconomic laws with the industrial policy blueprint.
While simultaneously releasing the child safety framework. And finally, the jarring reality checks.
The North Korean supply chain hacks forcing the deprecation of legacy Mac apps.
The terrifying Molotov cocktail attack on the CEO's home. And the financial data from RAMP, proving that their enterprise dominance is slipping to a fierce rival like Anthropic.
It is a profound duality. They are simultaneously the architects of tomorrow and incredibly vulnerable to the chaos of today.
It really is.
Which leaves you with an important question to consider long after you finish listening to this deep dive.
We are watching OpenAI shift from a pure AI research lab into a foundational infrastructure provider, an advertising behemoth, and a policy-making powerhouse.
Right. So what happens to our digital ecosystem when the fundamental intelligence layer of the internet is fully privatized, yet wields the influence, reach, and regulatory ambition of an independent nation state?
They aren't just building the software anymore. They're trying to own the bedrock, write the laws, and tax the grid. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive. Stay insanely curious.